Okay, so this past weekend, Islam Makhachev took on Alexander Volkanovski in the main event of UFC 284, which obviously took place in Perth, Australia. And obviously, I did a preview for this fight. And in the fight preview, I thought that Makhachev would walk through Volkanovski pretty comfortably. And I think I think he'd submit him in the first round. Could not have been more wrong on that. Obviously, Makhachev did get the win via unanimous decision. But Volkanovski showed that he is a live dog in this one and really turned up in this fight. An amazing performance for Volkanovski. Makhachev did good, don't get it twisted, but it was more for Volkanovski. I felt like he, in the fight, did a lot better than people expected. Now, sometimes when people do better than what they thought people would do, so like when with Makhachev, when Khabib fought Ally Quinter for the belt, Ally Quinter just survived against Khabib. He got dominated for the whole fight, and people kind of took that and thought, oh, maybe he's really good, Ally Quinter. Maybe Khabib isn't as good as we think he is. But sometimes people have this narrative. When a guy does better than you expect, the narrative gets skewed. But this wasn't the case. I actually think Volkanovski did very well in this fight. He did amazing. He didn't not once look like he was out of his depth. He never ever looked like he was a smaller man in there at all. You know, if anything, they look like two just elite level fighters going at it, regardless of the weight. And an amazing performance for Volkanovski. Makhachev got the win, but it looked a little bit dicey in there for me, in that fifth round especially. So what I'm going to go through today, and so usually I do a preview or review of these fights as a whole on the pay-per-view card. The card itself was decent, UFC 284, but I feel like these two fights, the Yair Emmett and Makhachev Volk, will be the ones I look at. So in this specific video though, I'll only be looking at Volk and Makhachev because there is a narrative that is spinning around at the moment, and I do find it an intriguing one. And it is, so the question and the title of the video is, was Makhachev Volkanovski a robbery? Did the judges get it wrong in this one? Now, in terms of my scorecard, when I look at it, I had rounds 1, 2, and 4 for Makhachev, and 3 and 5 for Volkanovski. Now, in round 1, it was close, don't get it twisted, but Makhachev did drop Volkanovski to one knee when it looked like when it did look like Makhachev sort of stumbled. There's a few times where Makhachev got hit and he kind of stumbled back. A lot of times in this fight, when these guys were going down, it looked like they were just losing balance and getting hit, so you can never tell if it was really a knockdown. But I felt the only clear knockdown in the fight where he hit, when one of these two hit each other and did damage, I actually think was in the fifth round when Volkanovski hit Makhachev. And you can see Makhachev's face, he got beat up in that fight. And in the first round, I think I gave it to Makhachev because he was able to get a takedown at the end, did control Volk, and he was able to momentarily drop him. So I think I gave him that round purely for that purpose. When it comes to round 2, he was able to hurt Volk with a big left hand, and I think that was really what did the damage. But Makhachev really could not get Volkanovski down in this fight for a sustained period of time. The only two times he did was 2 and 4, and 1 and 4 even. One, he kind of got him down towards the end of the round and was able to control him, but he wasn't able to get him down in 2 really, or in 5 at all. In 5 he actually ended up on bottom Makhachev, which I think should tell you a lot about how this fight went. In round 3, however, Volkanovski really lit Makhachev up, and he found it hard, Makhachev. Every time Makhachev got Volk down, it was as if he would get him down, but then Volk would just sprawl on top. He couldn't clammed him down. He couldn't really get the feet together like how the Dagestanis like to. They couldn't really get the Dagestani handcuff. He wasn't able to really control Volk in the way he was able to with Oliveira and all these other guys he's fought. Now, Volk is very good. Could it be the step up against Volk, or could it be maybe Makhachev took him lightly? Could it be that the competition caught up to Makhachev? Makhachev really, the comparisons to him and Khabib are very fair, but I also believe people kind of mix it with Khabib. The narrative of Khabib is he started fighting elite level guys when he won the belt, but in reality, he fought the likes of RDA a few fights, or I think maybe a fight before RDA ended up becoming the champion. He fought He fought him and this made him look easy. Gleason Tibau was a player at lightweight and he was able to beat him in a very, very close fight. Khabib fought guys where you kind of look at it, and he fought Edson Barbosa before he fought for the belt as well. Edson Barbosa, who was a live dog in that lightweight division, he fought Michael Johnson when he was a threat in that division. He fought guys where there was a certain level. Makhachev, the best guy he really fought before he fought Oliveira was probably Dan Hooker, maybe Bobby Green, but I would say Hooker personally. And then he beat Oliveira. He showed that he was of a certain level. But then when you start fighting these elite level guys, like Volkanovski, Dariush, perhaps a Justin Poirier at one point, maybe a Gaethje Chandler, all these type of guys. Even a McGregor, to be honest, if McGregor can come back into it. These type of fights, they're the ones where you really get tested. And in this fight, I felt like Makhachev showed his inexperience at times. He really looked like he was gassing out a lot in that fifth round. He was blowing hard. If that fight goes another round, he loses that fight. I think Volk finishes him. So I think for Volk, you can be proud, but I think there's just certain things that he did. He didn't really open up with the striking, I think, as much as he would, because obviously the threat of the takedown. But his wrestling was fantastic in this fight. And when I look at the third round, that's what he did. He did a lot of damage. The fourth round is what got people frustrated, because Makhachev was able to get Volkanovski down. He timed a beautiful takedown on him, and he got the back, but was never really progressing. Almost was stalling the fight. Now, I don't personally like this whole thing of standing people up, because if he's not doing any damage, I often feel like the onus should always be on the guy who is got taken down to try and get out of it, not to look to the referee just to get him up. However, Makhachev was advancing. He was trying to get the choke, so I could see both sides of why he didn't stand that one up. But it's one that, Volkanovski almost did more damage to Makhachev than Makhachev did to Volkanovski. So that's where it gets a bit dicey in how you score that round. The reason I score that round for Makhachev was I can't really give a guy who's been controlled for majority of that part of that round, the round for Volkanovski. The fifth round, however, is where it all goes off. And this round, these were all very close rounds, 1-4. Fifth, I believe, was the clearest round of the fight, and that went to Volkanovski. He was able to hit Makhachev a lot. Makhachev couldn't get him down. He was tired. And like we said, he looked like he was hurt at the end and ended up on bottom at the end of the fight. Volkanovski did very, very well in this contest. And I felt, personally, whether he beats Makhachev next time, I may favour Volk for that one. But for the whole division, Volk is a problem for a lot of these guys. I don't see... Him and Poirier could be an interesting one, but other than that, I don't really see how many of these guys can really touch Volk. He's getting better every single fight, and he's a better wrestler than most of these guys as well. So I do think this is going to be interesting to see how it plans out for him in the lightweight division. Obviously, he's going to say he's going to go back down to fight Yair. But I don't know. I just do wonder, though, in terms of a robbery. So the reason why I've often said you can't have a close fight be a robbery. And I maintain this point in this fight. However, I did a video when Alicia Baumgartner fought Michaela Mayer, and I said that wasn't a robbery, because naturally a close fight can't be. There are some fights where people like to throw the buzzword around. This is one fight, however, where I can sort of see why people will think Volk won. I think the scorecards, I think, were wildly in favour of Makhachev, I felt. And which surprises me, because I thought that they would probably... that they would be more on the side of Volkanovski being the hometown fighter and all, but wasn't really the case, which, again, it does surprise me that, because with Volk, he's the guy that they kind of look at as being the main man from Australia. He got the whole crowd on his side in this one, and if you look at it, so one judge had it 48-47 to Makhachev, as did one of the other judges, and Derek clearly had it 49-46 to Makhachev. Now that means, so in the Ben Cartledge card, one of the judges, he had round 1, 2, and 4 to Makhachev. So I scored it essentially the same way I did. And David Leverby, seemingly, I think he had it the exact same way. This is where it gets a bit mad. Derek clearly scored 4 rounds to Makhachev. I watched this fight back, I think, twice now. I pretty much watched it. I don't see any world where you can give Makhachev 4 rounds. You give him the first, you give him possibly the second, the third, you can... To me, you give that to Volkanovski. He was more active. And the fourth, you can give it either way. The fifth, however, is clearly Volk's, and that's the one he did give. However, I don't see how you give them 4 to Makhachev, to be honest. You can even give 4 to Volk, to be honest, if you want to score the damage. But the problem is, this is why this system is a bit weird. And this is why they need to change the scoring system in MMA. In boxing, which is what they've used, they use a 10-8 round. I mean, they use a 10-point system, which obviously means, with in boxing, naturally, a guy who wins a round, you get 10, the other guy gets 9. If it's a knockdown, you go 10-8. If no one, you get 10-7, and all that. And MMA, it's a bit more trickier because there's so many different elements involved, and a 10-8 in MMA isn't a knockdown, it's just if a guy's extremely dominant. And this is where, again, it becomes very hard to score. This is why I think they should change the system and have it in a way where there should be a judge almost for each sort of element of MMA, and then you kind of put it all together. I don't know, I might do a video on that, because I do think there is a better way I feel like you should have of scoring these fights. MMA is not boxing, it's very different. The two sports, I watch both, there's similarities obviously, but there's a vast difference in the margin for error. MMA is very small. In boxing, the inside game's used a bit more. They're just different sports. Even though they're both fighting sports, they are different. And, and obviously the lack of flipping big fights being made in boxing compared to MMA is bad as well. So I think in this one, though, I just don't get how you score 4 to Makhachev. Again, I just don't see round 3 how you give that one to Makhachev at all. Volk. I mean, I think when you look at... I haven't looked at the stats for this, the copy box stats. But from what I see here... So here we go. So, Volk threw 255 strikes, landed 164 of them. Makhachev threw 135, landed 95. Significant strikes. Volk threw 143, landed 70. Makhachev threw 95 and landed 57. And he's 4 out of 9 on takedowns, Makhachev. And Volk, it was 0 from 4 from the takedowns. I don't really remember Volk really. There was a few times when he tried it, but it wasn't any significant shots from him. Yeah, I don't see how you give, like I said, the 4 rounds. It doesn't make any sense. And this is why I say a close fight can't be a robbery. However, this one is an interesting thing because I could see why people would give it to Volk. And if I'm being honest, the bigger moments in the fight to me did kind of come from Volkanovski. The big moment for Makhachev, I think, was when he hurt him in the second round. But other than that, not much really that you could look for Makhachev as the big moments where he dominated Volkanovski. And yeah, this wasn't a robbery in my opinion. Like I said, I don't think close fights can be robberies, but I felt Makhachev won. But if you go the other way and you think Volk won it, I'm not completely against it because Volk did very, very well in this fight. And it's one of those... It reminds me of the John Jones and Dominic Reyes fight where most people felt that Reyes won. And it's a little bit of the narrative of, if Jones done what Reyes did, would they have given that fight to Reyes the opposite way? And Reyes put in the performance that Jones did. I don't think they would. I think they'd give it to Reyes. And in this fight, if Makhachev had performed how Volkanovski performed, would they have given it to Volkanovski? These questions I think have to be asked sometimes. Again, the judges won't be biased to Makhachev. It was in Perth, but I just wonder how do they score this? Because sometimes as a champion, you get a bit of leeway, I feel, from judges. And you see this a lot in MMA. Like I said, the Jones-Reyes fight was the best example. Some people could argue the Cyril Gane and Ngannou was a little bit favourable to Ngannou. Maybe the Whittaker Adesanya 2 fight. Usman and Covington, maybe. There's a lot of fights that you could look at that were very close, but they obviously, it felt as if they were always going to go to the champion because he is the person who has the belt. They're seen as the big star almost. I think for Makhachev though, I think this fight, his striking looked very good, but it wasn't amazing. Makhachev's striking is solid, but it reminds me of Kamaru Usman's striking at times. It's good, but there's still a little bit of things that could be ironed out a bit. And with Volkanovski, his wrestling looked excellent. Every time Makhachev got him down, he ended up almost on top Volk. He did amazing sprawling some of these shots, and I do wonder, going into future fights, if this will make Volk have a dominant Reyes and he performs worse now, or will he now take this and look at it as he's the guy who gave Khabib's apprentice, the guy who is supposedly better than Khabib, and he gave him all kinds of hell. Will that give him more confidence? I think it will, personally. I think Volk's a very confident fighter anyway, but I'm interested to see the fallout from this fight even more, because this fight, I think I'd like to see it again. It was such an excellent fight, an absolute classic. This is probably the best champ fight we've seen, because you look at a lot of the champ fights, it usually ends with one guy just icing the other. You look at McGregor Alvarez. McGregor beaten with these. DC and Stipe, I know they fought 2 more times. Stipe won those 2, but the first fight, when they were both champions, DC knocked him out in round 1. Nunes Cyborg, Nunes knocked her out in round 1. I'm missing any other ones. Cejudo and Dillashaw. Cejudo knocked him out in round 1. Like, it goes pretty much one way with these type of things. These fights. Adesanya Blachowicz was a very entertaining fight, to be fair, but it was more of a tactical battle, and Blachowicz kind of used his size in that one. But with this one though, this was probably the most entertaining one out of all of them, because it was an absolute war, and I need to see this fight again. I think if Makhachev can walk through his division, I think if Makhachev beats, I think Dariush will be the next one. If you can get 1 or 2 defenses and maybe Volk does the same, I think that's when. Like, I personally think if Arnold Allen beats Holloway, you give him the shot after Yair. Should Volk win that one, obviously. If he loses, I imagine they'll fight again, him and Yair Volk. So I don't think that'll happen personally. I think Volk will get it done. He's, to me, on course to be the GOAT at featherweight, and he's up there. To me, he's still the pound for pound king, no matter what that fight says. Because Makhachev, he may have technically it was the fight for the pound for pound status, but to me, you don't get that pound for pound status just by beating the guy. To me, you get it by putting in more work. One title defense does not make you pound for pound king, especially when you haven't fought guys who are up there. Kamaru Usman didn't get that pound for pound status really until he knocked out Masvidal, if we're being honest. Usman up until that point had beaten Colby Covington, Gilbert Burns. He'd beaten Masvidal before, all top contenders in the division. And then look up when he won the belt off Tyron Woodley, who was dominating everybody. You look at, he beat RDA, who's a big guy, a big player in that division. Beat David Mayer. He had put in so much work, Usman, and then it was only until the Masvidal fight when people gave him that pound for pound status. For Volkanovski, it was only after, I think, the maybe the Holloway fight and then the Korean Zombie fight. So that's about 2 title defenses in, or 3 title defenses in. So you need to put the work, and that's what Makhachev needs to do. Makhachev beats Dariush. Who knows? And maybe if Oliveira comes back, he beats him again. Maybe he beats Dustin. Whoever he fights, if he keeps the belt for another 2 fights, if he fights those guys, it's interesting to see if he will then get that recognition. But one thing I say about Makhachev, some things have changed a little bit with me with him. I think he's an excellent fighter. I think he's a talent. Maybe this was the raw inexperience. He didn't have Khabib in his corner. Maybe if Khabib was there, he might have shook him up a bit. But I think personally, he's an elite fighter, Makhachev, and he will be possibly one of the greatest. But I do think he looked very, very... I don't know, he just looked lost a little bit in this fight, especially in the 5th round. There's that picture of Volk on top of him, Makhachev looking like he's just suffering. He was genuinely like fighting for his life in there. He looked so lost. It looked like he literally... People talked about Khabib stalling, but Khabib would genuinely try and get himself into positions where he would want to posture up and land the ground and pound. Makhachev goes for submissions mostly, but in this fight, he looked like he got him down and was mostly trying to stall. There was a few times when he had his back he was trying to land the rear naked choke. But again, there wasn't much in it. So yeah, I don't know for Makhachev. I think a lot of improvements need to be made, which I'm sure he will make. At AK, I'm sure they'll fix it, but yeah, that's a fight I wouldn't be rushing if I was Makhachev to get back in there with Volkanovski, because Volkanovski, maybe that smaller rugby player type base could be the way to beat these Dagestanis. I think Makhachev isn't as good as grappler as Khabib, so I'm not going to go on the narrative that Khabib would have struggled with Volk, because I think Khabib's fight IQ is higher than Makhachev, and I think Khabib is a lot smarter fighter than people give him credit for. You know, when Khabib used to fight guys who were fantastic kickers, he would just close the distance instantly. When he fought guys who were punchers, he would stay on the outside so he wouldn't get hit. He knew exactly what to do against his opponents. With Makhachev, I felt in this fight he was just getting hit too much. I felt like he wasn't shooting really enough. I felt like it would have benefited him more to kind of... a lot of times he was sort of rushing with his strikes and then get the takedown and try and get it that way, rather than shooting from not afar per se, but... I don't know, I feel like sometimes with Makhachev, he kind of, how do I explain this, sort of waddles his way into takedowns. He doesn't shoot, you know, like how when Khabib shot on McGregor, for example, almost sprung across the octagon to get it. Makhachev doesn't really do that as much, and I think that's probably one thing I wanted him to do. He kind of was just waiting for the moment to come, but the problem is with Volk, he's so slick on the feet, and there's a few times I landed a few kicks as well, Volk, to the lead leg of Makhachev, which I think was doing a lot of damage. And like we said, Makhachev went through hell for this fight. This could be a baptism of fire, showing that if you want to fight at this level, you want to be at the championship level, you got to go through some real tough dogs in here. And Volk has been at the championship level. Maybe that could be it, the experience that Volk has, but either way, it was an excellent fight though. I'd happily watch it again. And yeah, I thought Makhachev won. Do you think this is a robbery? I personally don't, but I won't complain if you think that if you thought Volk won this fight. However, this isn't like a lot of other fights where I feel like it's so close and it could go either way, but they gave it to one guy. I could see a world where people clearly thought Volk won, and this is why I'm not completely saying people are stupid for thinking this is a robbery. This was a very close one. However, there were moments where Volk was able to get ahead. So, just depends how you score fights, really. I go for the control, and I think I can't give a round to a guy who is getting controlled for most of the time. But likewise, maybe you can't give the round to a guy who's not doing damage. It just depends. Like, this is why scoring MMA is so tricky. But either way, excellent fight. Love to see it again. And yeah, just my review / discussion about this whole discourse between Makhachev and Volkanovski. Was it a robbery? Let us know. I will be doing another one on Yair Rodriguez and asking whether this guy can compete with Volk. It's an exciting time for both divisions regardless. So yeah, UFC 284, great pay-per-view. And yeah, until next time.